Yeah, I didn't know if you guys were kind of curious, but this is my workstation right now. This is what it looks like. My husband made that cool contraption there so that I can record all of this, and I hope it makes it easier for you guys. So let's go ahead and let's continue on with using these examples that we had talked about previously. I went ahead and I wrote these all out. I've got the product property, the quotient, and the power property. You can go ahead and pause it and copy it if you would like, but I'd like to see it all condensed together as I explain all of this. All right. So now the first thing that we're going to do is that we're going to condense, and so we're wanting to make it smaller, okay? So if I've got 2 times log base 4 of 9 plus 3 times log base 4 of 2, we're wanting to condense, and typically when we condense, we may end up having to use the power property right here. So if we're going from here to here, okay, so let's go ahead and let's do that. So we have log base 4 of 9 squared plus log base 4 of 2 to the 3rd power. And so I'm going to go ahead and I know that this would be log base 4 of 81 plus log base 4 of 8. And so now we got to condense it even more. So since we are adding right here, so the property right here is that we're adding this, and so we're going from here to here. So now we have log base 4 of 81 times 8. And so our final answer would be log base 4 of 648. All right, let's go on. So here we're continuing to condense. We want to divide because we know that we're subtracting, but we got to take care of this first, okay? So like I said, we end up using the power property first, and then we'll use the quotient or the product. But this, when we're condensing, typically this is what you have to check for first, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. So we have log 80 minus log 4 squared, which is log 80 minus log 16, and 80 divided by 16 is 5, so we condense it all the way down to log 5. All right, again, power property first. So we have natural log PQ to the 3rd power plus natural log PQ squared all to the 4th power. And again, I'm going to refer to the 6.48 video to where you got to look at those rules of exponents, okay? So this would be natural log PQ cubed plus natural log P to the 4th power Q to the 8th power. And so now that we took care of the power property, we're going to be using the product property. So you notice that we're adding right here, so we're going from here to here, okay? So let's go ahead and let's do that. So natural log P cubed Q cubed times P to the 4th Q to the 8th. And so remember that rule on the exponents where we have P to the 3rd power plus 4, and q to the power of 3 plus 8. So then our final answer is natural log p to the 7th q to the 11th. Okay. All right. On this one, now we have the power property here, and yes, it is tempting to go ahead and use the power property first, but in reality, whatever is in the parentheses, we've got to work this out first. That's inside the parentheses. So since it's addition, and we have addition right here, then we're condensing still, and we're going from here to here. All right? So 1/2 log base 5 of x to the 6th times x to the 3rd. All right, and I'm not going to do that step anymore. You guys should be able to know that by now. So we have 1/2 log base 5 of x to the 9th power. Okay, and so now we're going to use the power property, and the power property, that's where we're going from here to here. So in other words, we're taking this and we're going this way to get it here. So now we have log base 5 of x to the 9th power to the 1/2 power. So now our final answer would be log base 5 of x to the power of 9 over 2. Let's continue condensing. All right, so let's see. On this one, we've got the power property right here that we've got to do first. So we are using this first, and since we're subtracting, we're going to be using this property going from here to here. So that's going to be the plan. So we have natural log 64 to the 2/3 power minus natural log 8 squared. Okay. So one of the things I'm wanting you guys to be able to know is that if you've got 64 to the 2/3 power, that's the same thing as saying the cubic root of 64 squared. And so then in reality is that we would have, let's see, I'm trying to figure out the best way to be able to explain this, because I know that you guys have learned this in Algebra 2. So then if we have the cubic root, we know that 64 squared is going to be 8 times 8 times 8 times 8. And those are all perfect cube numbers. So it's like we're saying the cubic root of 8 times cubic root of 8. And we multiply it 4 times. And so we know that this would be 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So this equals 16. All right? And so we're saying that 64 to the 2/3 power equals 16. All right, now granted, you could probably put this into the calculator, but sometimes it always helps to be able to know the background of all this, okay? All right, so let's go back to this. We have natural log 16 minus natural log 8 squared, which is 64. And then we would have natural log 16 over 64. And if we were to reduce that, it reduces down, 16 over 64 reduces down to 1/4. So then we would have natural log 1/4, and that's our final answer right there. Okay? All right. Again, it's tempting to go ahead and use the power property with this one, but we've got to work inside here, okay? So on the inside, between the parentheses, you notice that we're going to have to use the power property here. And since we're adding, you know that we're going to be using the product property as well, okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and let's get started. So -2 log 15 plus log square root 1 over 9. Well, the square root of 1 over 9 equals 1/3. So we got -2 log 15 plus log 1/3. And so now we end up multiplying this. Some of you guys, I know that you could probably skip steps and stuff, but I want to show each step right here. So now we have -2 times log of 5. And so then we would say that this would be log 5. This is the power rule that we're using right here. We're using this property right here now. All right? And so we know that 5 to the -2 power, so if I've got 5 to the -2, that's the same as saying 1 over 5 squared. So this ends up being log of 1 over 25. And that's your final answer in condensed form. All right. Okay, so always work inside the parentheses first. We know that we're going to have to use the power rule right here. Since we're adding, we've got to use the product rule to condense. So we're going from here to here. So we've got log 72 minus 1/3 log, and then I'm just going to say 16 because I know that 4 squared equals 16, plus log 32. And so we end up having to multiply that. So log 72 minus 1/3, and it's going to be log of 16 times 32, which I believe, let me check real quick. Gotta unplug my calculator. So 16 times 32 is 512. So it's going to be log 512. I'm going to use the power property. So then I have log 72 minus log of cubic root of 512. And the cubic root of 512 is going to be 8. So now we got log 72 minus log 8. And now, since we are subtracting, then we're going to be condensing it from here to here. All right? So now we've got log 72 divided by 8. And so our final answer is log 9. All right. All right, so now on number 26. I'm on page 22, if you're wondering. I'm sure you're already there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and, even though we got parentheses right here, we still are going to use the power property. So we're in expanded form this way, going down to condensed form here. So let's go ahead and let's do this. So we have log base 3 of a to the power of 3 over 2 minus log base 3 of 16 a squared, and all of this is to the 1/4 power. All right, so now we would have log base 3 of a to the 3 over 2 power minus log base 3, and then so on this one I believe that's 16 to the 1/4 power, I believe, equals 2. I'm going to check it anyways because I'm pretty sure I'm right. Yep, it is. So then it would be 2, because it's 16 to the 1/4 power, and then a squared here, this would be a to the 2 over 4 power, which is going to be to the 1/2 power. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's write that out. Log base 3 of a to the 3 over 2 minus log base 3 of 2a to the 1/2 power. So now, since we've got subtraction right here, we're going to be using the quotient property. So this is the expanded form going down to the condensed form. So then we would have log base 3 of a to the power of 3 over 2 over 2a to the 1/2 power. So just on a side note here is that we know that we've got to subtract, so 3 over 2 minus 1/2 is actually going to equal 2 over 2, which is just 1. Okay, so then this would be log base 3 of, and since this equals 1, it's just going to be a over 2. Now let's go ahead and let's do the expanding. Now we're expanding. So just to go back to this, this is the condensed side. All of these is the condensed side. So we're going to be going from this side to this side, okay? When it says condensed, you're going from this side to this side, all right? So now we're going to expand. So we've got it, and so if we look at this, typically I believe the power property ends up being at the very tail end. We'll just have to see. All right, so now we know that we're multiplying here, so this is x times y cubed. So since we're multiplying that, we're going from here to here using the product property. Okay, so now let's look at this, and we have log base 7x plus log base 7 y cubed. All right, and so now, since we have an exponent right here, so this is the condensed form, and so we're taking this and we're going over here. So let's go ahead and let's do that. So log base 7 of x plus 3 log base 7 of y. And you're done. This one, since we're dividing here, so this is dividing, so now we're going to go to subtraction. So natural log m cubed minus natural log n, I'm going to put a parenthesis there because putting two n's there, it looks weird. All right, and so now we're going to be using the power property here. We're going from here to here. So this becomes 3 times natural log m minus 7 natural log n. All right, on this one, we have a log of square root a to the 3rd power times b. So here, since we have this whole thing to be square root, I'm going to rewrite it. That way it prevents any kind of mix-ups that we might have. And so the power rule of exponents says that this is a to the power of 3 over 2 because that's what 3 times 1/2 is. And then b to the 1/2. All right, I can see it a little bit better now. And so now I'm going to be using my product rule. Okay. And now I'm going to use the power rule because I've got some exponents. Okay. So you notice on expanding, it looks like that the power rule is at the very end, but when you condense, the power rule is first. So 3 over 2 log a plus 1/2 log b. So that's all in expanded form. All right, now, since this is all with an exponent right here, then you know that you're going to have to do this one first. So now we have log, or 4 times log base 4 of c squared over d. All right, now this 4 is being multiplied by this, and so whenever we use the property with this, we have to keep it this all clumped together as we expand. So in other words, all of this has to be in parentheses as we expand. So 4 times the quantity of log base 4 of c squared, and just remember that since we are dividing right here, we're going from here to here where we're having to subtract. So log base 4 is c squared minus log base 4 of d, close parentheses. I think that this looks pretty sloppy because I want to make sure that you guys can read my writing. Okay, there we go. And so now inside here, this is already expanded as far as we could, but we've got an exponent here. So now we've got to use this property here where we're going from this to this, okay? So it's going to be 4 times the quantity of 2 log base 4 of c minus log base 4 of d. And that's your final answer. All right. Natural log. So again, this is on the outside, so you know that we're going to have to use the power property. So 2 times natural log 5p cubed q to the 4th. Since this is all being multiplied inside of here, even though that there's 3 of them, we're still using this property right here. So we're going to have to be adding on those. And remember that this is multiplied by this. And so when we're expanding, we have to keep this all together in parentheses. Natural log 5 plus natural log p cubed plus natural log q to the 4th power. And so now we've got some exponents, so we've got to put these all to the front. There you go. All right, so that is in expanded form. Okay. So on this one, I'm going to rewrite this. We've got some stuff that we've got to do so that we can see it clearly. I'm going to be changing this to exponents form. I'm going to be undistributing. So in other words, I'm going to be factoring out the x right here. So I'm going to rewrite it right here. So we got log base 2 of, and in the numerator, it's going to be x to the 1/3 power over x times the quantity of x plus 1. All right. And so now we'll go ahead and use the quotient rule. Log base 2 of x to the 1/3 power minus log base 2 of x times the quantity of x plus 1. So that's what I did. I went from here to here. Now on this one, it's going to be a little bit more challenging because we have x being multiplied by x plus 1, all right? And so now, remember that if we're going to continue to expand, we have to put all of this in parentheses here, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and use the power rule with this one. So we've got 1/3 log base 2 of x minus log base 2 of x plus log base 2 of x plus 1. All right, so that last one was kind of hairy, but I know that you guys can do it. So the property reference sheet, I'm wanting you guys to be able to look at all this stuff right here. So the basic properties, this is on page 23. So here, let's just look at the basic properties. So here we know that if we've got log base b of 1, anything to the 0 power does equal 1. And then we have anything to the first power equals that. So log base b of b is always going to equal 1. And then on this one, here's the examples. If we've got log base 6 of 1, that equals 0. On this one, log base 4 of 4, that equals 1. So these are ways to be able to evaluate logarithms using these properties on the basic properties here. Okay, and then of course the product property, this is the stuff that we worked on. All right, we showed the condensed form right here, what it looks like. And then this is what expanded form looks like. So I did factoring right here using the magic numbers and to be able to write this out into logarithms. The quotient property is that This is the basic rule. These are the examples that we've done. This is condense. This is expand. Okay? Power property, we've already written this out. These are the examples as to how to condense it. This is the example as to how to expand. The change of base, just remember that. We have this all together, so it's a nice reference sheet to be able to do this. These are the examples of the change of base. If you need to, pause the video and practice it and see to make sure that you have that, all right? Now, before I end all this, just remember that on this side is the condensed form. On this side, it is in the expanded form. All right? Good luck.